Hello, Westborough families. I'm Peter Guellnitz, the principal here at Mill Pond, and we are so excited to teach and help your children grow in this amazing learning environment. At Mill Pond, we pride ourselves on offering students a hands-on, project-based approach to learning that will set these children up for educational success with real-world applications. In the digital age, part of this approach naturally includes the introduction of smart technology, such as iPads, and a balanced educational approach to technology use. For many students in this age range, it marks the beginning of their digital citizenship, both inside the school and, more dangerously, their relationship with technology outside of school.
An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not three separate devices. This is one device.
As smartphones have become more popular, the average user age has shifted downwards to the point where our school has noticed a growing number of students with personal smart devices, which is creating new challenges for schools and families.
A good amount of behavior problems that we address here at Mill Pond School have to do with technology or behaviors that do stem from social media use at home. For example, we have seen students trying to imitate fight clubs they hear about online or take part in the next TikTok challenge. We see kids communicating in inappropriate ways using language they might not say out loud normally. We are definitely finding that what they see on social media has a profound impact on them, and that's a lot to contend with for teachers, administrators, and parents.
Over the past few years, we have had more conversations with parents about the challenges of social media and smartphones. This center question is, what is developmentally appropriate for our children with new and unprecedented exposure to the internet through smartphones and social media? We wanted to create this video so that we can start learning, sharing, and discussing how we can work together to support our children through what the Surgeon General is calling a national youth mental health crisis.
Especially our generation, screens are very, very dominant. I don't remember the last time I went out with someone or we hung out and we weren't looking at our phones the whole time.
This younger use is extremely concerning because of the data that has presented itself over the last 15 years. Since the 2010-2011 time period, during the explosion of social media popularity, there has been terrible trends in the mental health of our children. There has been a significant increase in students who have experienced persistent feelings of sadness or unhappiness and different forms of suicidal ideation. Massive increases in depression and self-harm in adolescence, and sadly, less time with friends.
I've spent time with thousands of parents over the last few years all over America, and the number one question they often ask me about is social media. They want to know, is this safe for my kids? How should I manage it? And what the data is telling us, Savannah, is not only have companies not demonstrated that their platforms are safe for kids, but there's growing evidence of harm. It shows us, in fact, that when adolescents spend more than 3 hours a day on social media, we're seeing an association with a doubling of risk of anxiety and depression symptoms, and the average amount of use per day among adolescents is nearly 5 hours.
It's the same here in Westborough. 60% of middle schoolers report using social media over 3 hours a day, and 56% of our students report being exposed to hateful or inappropriate content.
People are, I feel so much more comfortable saying mean things on Snapchat just because it deletes. I feel if you were texting someone, people wouldn't say half the things that they say over Snap just because it feels less permanent.
You were sort of talking about that earlier. You were you think about what you're going to say, the way you're going to say something. So you really have to be, you have to be careful.
Because people can clip you for a lot of stuff. Oh,
yeah. Friends or people you know.
I know that certain people have really bad digital footprints. Oh, and that's because, and then someone will bring it up. Some kid did something in 6th grade and then people still bring it up.
Yeah.
So the next inherent questions are, why is this happening and what can we do? For the why, we have two main reasons. The internet is a large, unpredictable, and unfiltered space. And 2, children's brains are not developed enough to understand this scary space.
So I think what we know about the way social media is designed is there are a lot of people making a lot of money designing situations and systems that keep our kids in it. And particularly the social media is designed to pull them in. It's designed to highlight the best parts of what everybody sees, and that can make it very difficult for kids whose brains are developing to find their way out of that.
There are so many factors that are developing in a teen. They are learning to figure out what their values are. They're focused very much on relationships and really just trying to figure out who they're going to become. Researchers tell us that social media stimulates the reward center in the brain, and that repeated exposure to the reward center looks very similar to what we think of when we think of addiction.
We know parents want to open communication with their child, but before committing to a smartphone, consider the idea that a smart device not only gives your children access to you, but also gives the internet access to them. As adults, we are aware of this, and we can avoid pitfalls, know we are being influenced, and understand how to navigate the social dynamics of friendships and bullies. However, the brains of our children are not there yet. And it's important we remember this as we think about their social emotional health. So how do we solve this problem? In short, students in 4th through 6th grade are too young for social media and smartphones. And it's okay to say that. Our children are too young for many things, such as driving, gambling, alcohol, smoking, etc. They are also too young for the dangers that exist through social media and smartphones. The not so simple part is how to respond to the pressures that exist from children and their peers, and how do we get the benefits that we are looking for in terms of communication and safety.
What do you think you're going to do with your 6th grader?
Oh, yeah, we know. Yeah. Good question. So I'm really conscious of not wanting her to be left out. Like, I don't want her to be the only one without or whatever.
There's a lot of parent peer pressure.
Yeah.
Also.
And I know I peer pressured my parents. I kind of feel bad for them.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
The good news is there's a lot of alternatives that help us provide what we need and remove what can be dangerous. These also allow us to take the steps towards a smartphone. The 3 main categories of alternatives are smartwatches, flip phones, and more restricted smartphones that are built for children. These devices all allow for a level of connection and communication to be achieved without opening children to all the risks of the open internet. We recognize that different families might be in a different place with technology in their house. This could be based on children's ages, family dynamics, or a number of other variables. For those reasons, we have put together a number of guidelines that are good for any household.
There are a handful of good tips that could be helpful to most every parent. First one, no screen use during meal times and family times, maybe even a dedicated tech-free time that the whole family takes part in. Second tip would be to keep devices in central locations in the house, especially not in kids' rooms and especially not in kids' rooms at night. That can be especially distracting to kids. Third tip would be to use parental control apps. There's a range of different ones out there that will set screen time limits, app by app, filter content, approve apps and websites, monitor web activity, and monitor content of communications. The last tip would be to go by a guideline of about an hour per day of total screen time for kids ages 9 to 12. Ultimately, we are responsible for their well-being, so sometimes we as adults need to establish limits and expectations that may not be popular with our children. That's just part of the job we signed up for.
We know we have provided a lot of information in this short video. One of the most important things we can stress is to have open communication around your plans. Set up agreements ahead of time. Let them know the why behind your plan. Keep the conversation going as you introduce new pieces. There are an incredible amount of resources out there to support us during this mental health crisis. Please see the ones we have provided and do not hesitate to ask for assistance. Thank you and take care.